Hello and welcome back to the 100 Day Art Challenge. Now on Saturday the 19th of October 2024 I spent the whole day in hospital. I had a bit of a medical event because I have a hiatus hernia in my lower esophagus, and from 10 a.m. till 12 a.m, which is midnight or just after, I was in hospital. So I filmed this video, which I quite like, and I tried to capture a little bit of my stay there. And it's pretty rare that I get the opportunity to film something which is drifting down a corridor like this. Because I was in a wheelchair being pushed to have a CT scan, I thought, I could film quite a nice smooth video here, and all the doors are automatic, so they just open magically. And so I thought I'll take advantage of the situation, try and capture a little something. And basically I'm showing you this because this is the theme of my drawing that I'm going to show you today. I basically was sat in a corridor with this drip giving me fluids, and I just had to sit and wait there. They'd given me a salad, which is the only thing I'd eaten that day, which was really nice when I had it. And then I asked them for a pen and a couple of sheets of paper, and I did a bit of a drawing. So without further ado, here is the video for today. The machine they had me hooked up to kept beeping, so that's me turning it off there or trying to mute it, and you can see it just mutes it there, so I turned it off. And I've got this weird setup where nothing's holding the paper down, and so it's difficult. It's uncomfortable to try and draw, and it's very scribbly and messy, the drawing that I'm doing. Plus I didn't start filming from the moment I started drawing, but it occurred to me partway through doing it that this is going to be part of the daily challenge. So I pulled out my phone and started filming what I was doing. It's tricky because it was hard to hold the phone at a decent angle and people were walking past, so I've had to heavily edit the video and crop it several times to make sure that no one's face is captured on camera. But there we are, that's just the nature of doing things like this. The funny thing is that at one point an orderly walked past, and I give him a nod as to say hello, and he just frowned at me, and I thought, oh, what's his problem? And then I realised it looked as though my phone was filming him, and I just had no idea the angle that my phone was being held. So I can appreciate why he thought you're not really allowed to film inside of hospitals, because it's quite vulnerable moments for a lot of the patients. So I get why he wasn't too keen on that. But as I said, I've tried to crop it all out, and it's very scribbly. It's not a good drawing, but I thought at least it's on theme, and at least I did something, because it was an incredibly uncomfortable day, and I'm glad that I could get one piece of art out of it. And it was only because not long before I'd started this drawing, being given dihydrocodeine, and after having some food, I think that made the tablets work, and I was feeling much better all of a sudden. So I thought I'll just take advantage of it and do something, because I didn't have a book and I didn't have any signal to watch or listen to anything on my phone. So I thought I can entertain myself with a bit of drawing. And then it was this lovely perspective down the corridor. So I thought there's lots of different things in the corridor that make it interesting, like this counter that I'm trying to draw here. And some of the angles and the design is really quite different. I really wouldn't have conjured this if I were to make something up, to have this big framework above it with the lights. So it's quite nice to introduce some of those things into your imagination for the future, so that I can create some big structure around something which is otherwise quite plain. Everyone there was really nice. There was only a couple of patients who were a bit unpleasant, but they were mainly unpleasant for the nurses, which I felt bad for the nurses who had to deal with them. But one of them was a bit unpleasant with me, but it was nothing compared to what the nurses had to deal with. So I did appreciate the work they were doing, and they came up and were quite nice about the drawing as well. They seemed to appreciate the fact that I was keeping quiet, keeping myself preoccupied and not bothering anyone, except of course for filming, which they didn't seem to mind that, to be honest, the nurses who came up. It was just one chap who was walking down the corridor, and he just didn't seem to. I think he just noticed my phone, and to be fair, that's legitimate. Excuse me. So yeah, there's a lot of different angles that I'm trying to work out here in the corridor, so I thought I've gone past the point of trying to make this drawing look nice and tidy, so instead I'm just going to scribble away until I can build the framework that I'm seeing. And I'd already mismeasured several times, so I'd given up on a reasonable level of accuracy and instead thought I will just place things where they now fit. So sorry for the difficult camera angle, it's really not an easy way to see the drawing, but at least it's capturing some of what I was doing. But it's so tricky drawing with one hand hovering above the paper and not actually holding the paper down whilst you're doing it. It really does make that very uncomfortable and difficult. But yeah, I mean, if I would have pinned it down with, say, the plate or the tray, that might have helped, but it was quite a small trolley that I was drawing on, just like a food trolley basically. So I was lucky to have that. If I didn't have that set up, I wouldn't have been able to draw, so I was quite fortunate that all of these things just fell into place for me at the right time. There was no way I would have tried to draw at any other point of my stay there, because I was in so much pain throughout the day that this was the opportune moment when I'd had quite powerful painkillers to just take advantage. And as I said, being fortunate enough to have quite a nice perspective down the corridor to take advantage of as well. So it could be worse, but one thing I do like is that when I ask for a couple of sheets of paper from the hospital, they don't have bright white paper. They have this kind of off-white paper, which I really like, because it's very muted in its tone. It's not really, a high contrast white. So if you put white paper against it, it would you'd see how much darker it is. And it's cheap and probably recycled, very thin paper, but it completely perfect for what I was doing with just the biros were terrible though. They weren't good pens. But yeah, so that was another thing that I liked. There was the pens that they did provide me with was the paper they provided me with was really quite a highlight, because I've got an extra sheet of that now as well, so I'm looking forward to drawing on that. It's a little bit crumpled. I was trying to keep them clean, but I didn't have anything to put it in. It was just being held in my hands, so it's got a couple of creases in it, but I'll still use that other piece of paper. But despite all of the wobbly lines and all of the scribbly shading that I've done, I think that capturing this moment from the day is one of those time capsules that is always there to make art just a really valuable way of documenting your life at times where you're struggling. It's always there for you if you want to take advantage of your ability to just put the world down on paper. Not put it down, but try and jot it down on paper in your own way of describing it with either paint or pencil or whatever it is you have to hand. And it was a bit of a saviour for me to have that, because it's otherwise just grim, just sat with people in the corridor who were uncomfortable as well, and there's just machines beeping constantly. I was thinking about including the sound that I was hearing, because it was just beep, beep, and all these kinds of different, machines beeping away, and then alarms going off when the machine was either running out of battery or whatever was happening. But I thought that was what I was experiencing, but I can't include it just in case there is any details of anyone, because there was some conversations happening in the corridor as well, so I thought I'm best to not include that. But I met some very interesting people. Some of the nurses and people there, some of the technicians and staff were very nice, and the surgeon was very nice there, which I didn't have surgery. I wish I had, but sadly I've got to wait for surgery, and it's just nightmarish, this illness thing. But there we are. It's just something which I'm going to have to try and deal with for the time being, and hope that I can avoid needing to go to hospital again anytime soon, because it's a long time to only be given paracetamol, a bit of morphine, and then at the end of the day dihydrocodeine, and otherwise it was just a load of tests, blood tests and scans and things like that, which is good in a way, because then they have the information in order to have me processed and ready to have surgery in the future. but it felt as though I was just sat waiting for a long time, and I couldn't really sit comfortably in a chair for most of the day because of the hernia. So instead I would try to lie on a couple of seats, but because seats are concaved for people to sit in, it was so uncomfortable on my back, and it was just absurd looking, but there was nothing that I could do really. I couldn't sit down and I couldn't comfortably stand up, so for the majority of the day I just lay on these two chairs, and there was an armrest and then two other chairs which this young woman was lay across as well. Both of us were in such bad shape, but that was for the majority of the day. That was for absolute hours, and then at the end is when they moved me from that waiting room after my scan into the main waiting room outside, where there were a lot of people who'd just come in waiting to be seen, and other people who were being called in to get their results from their tests. And I sat there for an hour or so, and then eventually they called me in, sat me down in the corridor, moved me around from one place to another in the corridor, and I ended up here where I'm sat at the moment. And the funny thing is that I asked for a salad because I'd been given dihydrocodeine, and I was worried about having strong painkillers without having any food. I thought it'd make me nauseous again. And she said she wasn't sure because I can't have wheat or gluten either. I'm celiac, so she was going to see if she had something. And one of the patient's family who was there kindly said, if she doesn't find anything, I'll go and buy you something from the shop, which was really kind. There was some real humanity happening in this grim situation, so it was nice to see. And anyway, she comes back with this salad, and for such a plain salad, I mean, I shouldn't say such a plain salad, but it's iceberg lettuce, which is not my favourite because it's just watery crunch stuff, you know. A tomato, some cress, an egg, and some ham. It was some of the most delicious food I'd ever had because it was my first meal of the day, and I had to eat it slow because I was feeling sore. You know, my stomach and just generally my whole body was just feeling like it was in recovery from all of the illness throughout the day. And anyway, yeah, so I'd had that, and then, in fact, to be honest, before I even ate the salad, I just unwrapped it because it had cling film on top, and just as I'd unwrapped it, a nurse came up and said, you know, is your name, you know, this? And I said, yeah. And she said, right, come with me. So I wrapped it back up again and went with her, and we discussed my scan results. And then I went back to my seat, and the other patient who saw me, you know, needing some food, said that they found it funny that I'd not eaten all day. I was just about to eat, and then they said, right, come on. So I couldn't eat. But I did. As soon as I came back after that conversation, I came back and had my salad, and after the salad, that's when I thought, right, I'm going to ask for some paper because I've been given a pen by that nurse who called me away. So I'm going to ask for some paper. I did ask her for paper, but she must have been rushed off her feet. All of them were just constantly running around doing jobs, so it was difficult, the work they were doing. And I asked this nice Polish nurse who had been treated by quite a bit. I think that's the guy there. You see those black legs going past? Okay, black trouser legs. I mean, that was the guy, I think, who gave me a funny look. Anyway, so the Polish nurse was the one who got me a couple of sheets of paper, and then came back later on and asked me that I was drawing, and said that she thought it was good because you know, I'm obviously keeping myself entertained. But yeah, it was a shame that I couldn't do a better drawing. It's a shame that I didn't plan it out better, but I was very grateful to just have something to do, because it's just dull. Just being in hospital and being really in a lot of pain is just grim. So it was nice to have some rest from that. And then when I got back home at about 12:30, 1:45 in the morning, getting into bed was so nice. In fact, the first thing that I did before I got into bed was to record the audio for yesterday's video, because that was, you know, urgent. I had to do it. It was, otherwise I'd have to do it in the afternoon, and I thought I'd need to do it now. So I don't know how well that audio came out. I haven't watched the video since, and I usually like to check the videos that I upload, but it was just a job that I had to get done, because it had crossed my mind whilst I was in the hospital that I might have to miss one of the days uploading and just be a day late uploading videos to YouTube, because I like to do these every single day until 100 now. And there may be a case or a time when something happens and I miss a day, but I'm going to try to avoid that if I can and go straight through to 100 if possible. And this shows that it is possible because I did a drawing. I don't want to make it a scribbly drawing that isn't very good every time. I want to try to do something a bit more creative and experimental for a lot of the remainder. But I have certain videos that I've already got lined up that I'd filmed a while ago, so those are coming up soon. But otherwise, this is just to give you an update about what was happening with me a couple of days ago. So there it is. That's what I got done. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you tomorrow.